one of the things that we know is that the more simple you can make the way you run your business, the more successful you'll be, and the easier it is to scale your business. But once things get really complicated and you go, man, how can anybody actually run this thing?
Yeah.
Like it's just...
Actually, it's not, nobody is running it because it's, excuse the French, but it's a bit of a shit show. And you just think if everybody got a bit clear on what they were doing and things were in their calendar and descriptions were clear, roles were clear, it would just be a different animal. It would be great.
Yeah. So what we know is that if you can keep it simple, you're going to get greater clarity. If you get clarity, you're going to scale.
If you want more time, money, freedom, and have a business that's not reliant on you, then you're in the right place. Each week, Mark Creedon, along with some of the very best business minds in the world, will take you through simple, practical steps you can take to create the business you always wanted. From his own practical experience, Mark will show you how to work less, make more, and get the business you always wanted, the one that you deserve. Now here's your host, one of Australia's most sought-after business coaches, Mark Creedon.
Have you ever wondered how it is that your business, or why it is your business isn't scaling, and what's the one ingredient that's missing? In today's episode, we're going to share with you that ingredient, and it may surprise you. It's actually clarity, and how you can get more clarity so that you can truly scale your business. And as always, joining me in the chair is Caroline. Good to see you again.
Yeah, we've got a great session this week about how the clarity will really help you with your growth multiplier and being able to get more things done with less stress.
Because, Caroline, lots of clients come to us and they go, and we'll sort of say to them as we talk about joining our Mastermind program, and you'll ask them the question, what's the biggest issue? And they go, it just feels really hard. Everything is just a struggle. It's like every day. And it's really interesting because we think when we're running a business, and as you're listening to this, you might go, yeah, that's me, man. My business is really hard. And you think, oh, it's a people issue, it's a client issue, it's a product issue, but often it's just
a you issue.
Well, often it's a clarity issue, isn't it?
Yeah.
It really is just around clarity. So I think there's some pillars or some points that we can talk about, which are really practical. Yeah. If you want to get clarity, if you want to get crystal clear on how you can get your business to scale, and we're talking about here, Caroline, we're talking about scaling to the point where the business is a whole lot less reliant on you.
Yeah, for a lot of business owners, that's the ultimate goal. Let's get you on a holiday, and you can do this with these simple core principles, things like vision and direction, roles, accountability, numbers, and knowing what's where with your numbers and scoreboards and things like that. And also your decision filters.
So let's pull all those apart, right? So here we're talking about how to have a business, not a job. Great title for a book, by the way. Have a business, not a job.com.
Did you write a book about that?
I did. Have a business, not a job.com. But so here we're talking about what are the things that you can do? How do you get clarity in your business? And you correctly say, I think there's four things you can look at. The first one is vision and direction. Like it's like anything. If you don't have a really clear picture on where you're going, it's unlikely you're going to get there.
It's not impossible, but I'm going to say it's impossible because it's a bit like if you jump in your car and go, I'm going to go to Sydney. Great. Are you going to go via Perth? Are you going to go down to Melbourne and then head up to Sydney? Or you need to have a bit of idea about what you're going to do. How are you going to get there?
Yep. Spoken like a true Brisbaneite there. You're going down to Melbourne and down to Sydney and across to Perth.
Across to Perth.
So
with a passport maybe for our Perth
that's right.
Listeners.
It's about getting really clear on what your vision is. And I think the other thing I see people making mistakes on, Caroline, we're talking about vision and we're get clarity on the vision. We'll get a consultant to come in or get a coach to come in and they can tell us what our vision is. No, you've got to know what your vision is. What a coach can do is a coach can help you to get clarity on the vision and then create a pathway to get you there.
Yeah.
But you've got to know where you want to be. And you use a really kind of a simple kind of a genie bottle exercise, don't you, when you're talking to people?
I often say to people, in a perfect world, if you and I were having a chat, and you had stubbed your toe on a genie's lamp and you had 3 wishes, what would that look like? What would the ultimate business look like for you? If you don't know what that ultimate business looks like, how it's trading on a daily, weekly, monthly, yearly basis, what are you doing in that business? you're not going to be able to put those wishes out there, and then you won't be able to deliver that when you get back into your office.
And I reckon a really cool tool that I've seen you use quite a lot of times is this. If we were having this conversation in 12 months' time and you had been granted the perfect business outcome by the genie, what would be going on? What would your business be making? What would you be working? Who would you be working with? Who would you have working for you? And you've got to map that stuff out. And the clearer you can get on that, the more likely you are. And Brian Tracy often talks about you write a goal down, you're 3 times more likely to achieve it. But this isn't about goal setting. This is not about goal setting. This is about vision and direction setting.
Yeah.
What's the
It's a
direction you
little
want
bit
your
of
business to go
what's
to?
the perfect world for you?
Yeah, correct.
And I mean, if you don't know what that is, you can't bitch about how busy you are or how tough business is because you don't know where you're going.
Yeah, that's
So, yeah, you need to have that.
I reckon there's an element that you sort of just touched on a bit before. You have to have clarity of the vision, right?
Yeah.
But if you have a team, they have to have clarity of the vision. And the analogy we always use, and you just touched on it earlier, if I pulled up outside your house in the car and said, hey, jump in, what's the first question you're going to ask me?
Oh, where are we going, Mark?
Where are we going?
Did you pack the lollies?
Well, you would. But where are we going, right? And I often say this, that we do this in our business. We bring people into our business, whether it's our team, whether it's suppliers, alliances, referral partners, whatever it might be, even your clients in some cases. And we run that without letting them know where we're going. So if you've got a team working for you and you are not super clear on the vision,
Yeah.
and you haven't shared that super clear vision with them, you can't complain about the fact that things aren't working the way they would. Oh, my business isn't scaling because I did get caught in the day-to-day. It's not that's doing it. We spoke about that in the last episode. It's the fact that you don't have a really clear picture on where you're going.
And they're not going to, your team aren't going to be able to get that real desire to want to achieve that, what they've got to do, what you've set for them, or what you know that they need to do, and they know what they need to do.
Yeah.
And they're not going to be able to embrace that like as effectively if they don't have that vision.
Yep. So we know that clarity is a growth multiplier, right? If you're talking about scaling your business, you've got to get clarity. Number 1 was clarity around the vision and direction the business is going in. Number 2?
Yeah, roles. Let's look at roles and accountability next. Unless you've got your vision set, everybody knows what the big picture is, where the direction of the company is going. But those people that need to have that impact and input into that really need to have a clear description of what role they play in that, so that they can buy into that and really have conviction on what they're wanting to achieve.
Well, that's right. And I think that you run the risk otherwise that there's too many cooks in the kitchen, right? Or too many people doing the same thing. And I think this is really important, Caroline, with couples. We are very clear about roles, your role and my role in the business. I mean, less clear at home. Even that's pretty structured.
I think we're pretty
It's actually pretty structured on who does what around home as well. But I think if you want to avoid this level of conflict between partners working in a business together, real clarity around who's doing what, and people swimming in their own lane.
Yeah,
Like-
I mean, that's something that I talk about all the time.
Yeah.
And I often I pick people up in the business where you sort of go, do you know what? This is great that you're thinking about this, but this is not for you to act on. Let's communicate with somebody whose lane this is.
Yep.
And that just allows everybody to sort of eliminate any stress or why the hell are you doing this when it's actually my gig. And it means that things will actually get done quicker.
Yep.
Anybody else who's involved in that task isn't going to be saying, oh, who the hell am I supposed to go and deliver this information to, because there's too many cooks in the kitchen and there's only one real.
And I think it's a real issue with, I'm going to say husband and wife or partners or whatever, where you've got a team. Because I think what can often happen, if you don't have clear roles, one of 2 things can happen. Either people get really confused about who to bring what to, or what did you say that to Caroline? That's my division. And gosh, you and I have seen that when we've coached couples, right?
Yeah.
Well, you shouldn't have taken that to him. You should have taken that to me and all that sort of stuff. But the other thing you get is...
Well, there's a softie. They'll take things to the softie.
That's right. So they'll start to play mum against dad.
Yeah.
Right. Or they'll know. If they know, like if you were a real hard ass and I was really reasonable, which is reasonably accurate description. But I mean, they're more likely to bring something that's actually in your lane to me because they know I'm going to say yes.
Yeah.
So you want to avoid that. So, okay, so roles. The other part of the roles is accountability.
Yeah. Yeah. there's always you need to have some sort of metrics and which sort of line onto your accountability piece there. If there's no reporting on the success or what is needed or what's not needed to be able to achieve the job,
Yep.
then you're not going to be able to align with the vision.
Yeah. So I think if you're getting clarity around roles and accountability, it's about who's doing what and what that what is. And the accountability for me is what that what is, how it's done, and when it's done, which is a nice segue then into the third point, which is numbers and
scoreboards.
Yeah. I mean, you have to know what you're measuring. What gets measured gets actioned, right?
Yeah. It's interesting because when you're in businesses, it's often easy for, say, a sales team or sales driven teams to be able to have a scoreboard on their numbers and how they're going with that. Whereas it's harder to have some sort of scoreboard or measuring tools on numbers for an administration role or for your backstage roles where every bit is important because one can't survive without the other.
Yep.
But it's really nice to be able to create something that's not necessarily a strict KPI, but falls in that category.
Yes.
Where they can feel that what they're doing is having an impact on the business as a whole.
Yeah, and I think that when you're talking about numbers and scorecards, we've got to work out what are the right numbers. So we're talking about getting clarity. There's a heap of numbers that you can measure, and there's all sorts of tools you can use and software or AI that you can use to help you track this. But really what we're talking about here is measuring the numbers that are going to give you real clarity around how your business is performing. Yeah. And one of the mistakes I often see people making is they measure things like just revenue. And we've seen businesses that have gone, I'm making revenue, I'm making $500,000 a year. I've doubled my revenue to $1 million a year, but I'm actually making less retained profit because in the process of doubling, they've employed extra people, they've spent extra money on advertising, or et cetera, et cetera. Yeah. So you've got to make sure that you're measuring the right numbers. It's certainly around top-end revenue, gross profit, net profit, cost of acquisition of customers, lifetime value of customers, all of those metrics that we've spoken about in previous episodes. But they're the things that you've got to get clarity on. So really the point today is not to tell you what all those numbers are, but to say you've got to get clarity on it.
Yeah. And it falls right back into the vision and direction of the business. It's vital.
And then the other thing too, the final point you talk about is decision filters. And that's really around how am I making decisions about the business? What filter am I using? In other words, am I making a decision that's right to keep that one difficult team member happy, or am I making decisions that are right for the good of the business as a whole?
Yeah.
Or am I making decisions that are right for today, but may not be right for the next 12 months?
Yeah.
So you've got to get really clear on what's the criteria that you use to make. Somebody comes to you and says, "Hey, can we do this?" So if I look at somebody comes to me now and says, "Hey, Mark, can we do this?" I'll go, "Hang on a second. I need to think about that in terms of what's the return on that investment, what's the impact on the team, what's the benefit to the client, what's it going to cost us." You've got to work out how you make decisions, right?
Yeah. And I mean, that falls back falls forward onto what we were talking about in our last episode where we were talking about urgency versus importance.
Yep.
And if those decisions are urgent, then there's a decision filter there that has to be incorporated into that.
Yeah. And I think, Caroline, that if you can get clear on those 4 points, you can simplify things. And one of the things that we know is that the more simple you can make the way you run your business, the more successful you'll be.
Yeah.
And the easier it is to scale your business. Well, once things get really complicated, and we've seen businesses that are just so complicated, you go, man, how can anybody actually run this thing?
Yeah.
Like it's just...
Totally, it's not, nobody is running it because it's, excuse the French, but it's a bit of a shit show, and you just think, if everybody got a bit clear on what they were doing and things were in their calendar and descriptions were clear, roles were clear, it would just be a different animal. It would be great.
Yeah, so what we know is that if you can keep it simple, you're going to get greater clarity. If you get clarity, you're going to scale. So if you're sitting listening to this and going, my business is just, it's not doing, it's doing okay, and I'm pretty happy with it, but it's just not doing what I think it's capable of, or not doing what I set out to achieve. Before you go tweaking a whole bunch of other levers, before you start looking at whether it's people, whether it's pricing, whether it's, all of those other factors that it may well be, ask yourself first, is it clarity? Are we absolutely clear? All right, and that's I mean, they're the 4 points that we've run through today, right? Is it clear? Do you have clear vision? Do you have clear direction on your business?
Yes, clear with other roles and accountability, clear. Other numbers, scoreboards, clear.
Yep.
The decision filters that you're going to be using, is that all clear?
Yep.
It seems like a lot, but you often find days where you drive home and you go, "Oh, it was a really great day." That was because you were clear on all the things that needed to be achieved that day. Everybody was clear on what was happening.
Yeah, and the other thing I would say, Caroline, is that imagine if you could just pick one of those things. So we've given you 4, right? If you just picked one of those things, I wonder what getting clarity on, say, your roles and accountability, I wonder what impact that would have on your business. If all you did was said, between now and the next episode, I'm going to get really clear. I'm going to sit down with my business partner and we're going to map out what our roles are and what we do and how and when we do it, the accountability component. I wonder what difference that would make in your business.
Probably less stress and more productivity.
100%, right? Clarity brings less stress, more productivity, helps your business scale.
Yeah.
All right. Caroline, amazing. Great stuff. Thank
Great.
you. Look forward to chatting in the next episode next week.